Yes, because I think creativity is an act, right? Doesn't matter whether it's dance or music or singing or, it's an act of creation.
Hello, my name is Eline Perez and you're listening to Are You an Artist? Today's episode is with the great Hubert Essakow, who speaks about dancing for the Royal Ballet, the courage to choreograph, ballet geek and Buddhism. Thank you, Hubert, for your generosity, and I'm sure that everybody will enjoy your calm voice and the huge amount of references, reminder that everything can be found in the notes of the episode. So, your letter.
Mm-hmm.
Dear Hubert, I keep telling everyone to go to your ballet classes, so this podcast will be my new promotion tool. I have indeed been following your teaching for 7 years, and I still have so much to learn from you. I never get bored in your classes, probably because you are so curious about the body and movement, because you keep questioning and challenging yourself, but also because you have a fantastic sense of humor, something I find rare in the dance world and so precious. I always loved our conversations, whether it's about the last exhibition or performance you've seen, or just about what it means to be a human being in this crazy world. I know that you are also interested in choreography and the process of creating, which leads to the first question of this podcast. Hubert, are you an artist?
I like to think I'm an artist, whether I am an artist. I think I'm artistic. I like art. I like creativity. I like... I like various forms of art, whether it's, visual art or dramatic art, or I think I am at heart. Yes, I think I am an artist, but I don't always, yes, I think I am an artist by nature, yeah.
And did you always want to do ballet?
Pretty much, yes. Well, I always wanted to move. From a very young age, I was moving, I was always dancing. And I grew up in a very remote part of South Africa. And somehow I was exposed to, by my parents, didn't necessarily, I come from South Africa is a country where it's very, this machoism, sort of conservative, especially at that time. I'm 50 years ago, born into this regime which was very conservative, and yet I discovered that I wanted to dance. And my mother, I come from a single parent family, my mother allowed me to go to ballet lessons, and I started ballet from a very young age, and I did ballroom dancing, and I did...
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I started with ballroom. I think I started with ballroom
How old
dancing.
were you?
I was, about 8 or 9.
You can do ballroom dancing at 8 or 9?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know, I don't know how I managed it now, thinking back. I don't know how it happened that I was allowed to do this, or that, I was exposed to it.
Did your mom like dance, or how did you discover it?
She was. I discovered it because my mother's friend looked after me sometimes, and her daughter used to go to ballet classes, and I used to tag along and wait for her. And, we'd wait outside the studio, and I was always I'd hear the music, and I was always very curious as to what was actually going on inside.
Oh.
So that was my first exposure to ballet. And then I didn't start it until we moved cities. We went, I grew up on like a farm, basically, in the countryside. And then we moved to a bigger city, Johannesburg. And one of my friends said she did ballet. And I said, can I come along? And that's where I discovered my teacher. And I was with her for, she trained me. I was with the same woman for 8 or 9 years.
That must have been super interesting to just be with this one. You had private classes, or was it with a group?
Eventually, I had private classes. I started off having group classes, and then as I progressed, if it hadn't been for her, I don't think I would have continued. She had a huge ambition that I would become a dancer, I think. Because my mother didn't know what was going on, you know. She didn't know what sort of really, how to guide me. So it was this woman, Diane, who really guided me and nurtured me and encouraged me, because it was a very difficult environment to be doing something like that.
But then you were still going to school until 18, or how?
Oh,
did
yes.
you start?
And then I went to, from the age of 15, I went to a high school where they did ballet as a subject. But it was very, you know, I was in a school where I experienced a lot of bullying.
Oh.
So I hated that school and the environment and the, you know.
Yeah. Was it a big school or?
Was it
like big school with a lot of people?
Yeah,
or?
yeah.
Okay.
You know, and kids, when they found out that I was doing ballet, it was just a very, very horrible environment, and I hated it. So once I went to the art school, the Johannesburg Art Ballet and Drama School, I was kind of like with my own people, and I sort of, you know, found it was much easier.
And when did you move to London?
Oh, so from Johannesburg, I first went to Cape Town.
Okay.
When I graduated from school, I started dancing in a ballet company in Cape Town.
And did you like it?
Yeah. I mean, I like to be, you know, out of school and working and being independent and dancing, which is what I wanted to do, and getting opportunities. So I started dancing professionally from the age of 18 as soon as I left school. But before I went to Cape Town, I came to London and I took part in this ballet competition called the Adelaide Genée, which is like, I trained with the Royal Academy of Dance. And that was their like big competition, annual ballet, like a Prix de Lausanne type of ballet competition. And I came over, I won the competition in South Africa, and I came over to London to participate in this competition. And to my surprise, I won like a silver medal. I had no idea that. I didn't think I was going to, you know, do well or you know, I just thought, I'm just lucky enough to be in this competition. But I did really well in the competition, to my surprise.
And that was the first time you were in London?
First time I was in London, and I loved London. And I wanted, of course, you know, growing up in South Africa, you look at all your ballet books and, you know, it's all like a day in the life of the Royal Ballet and all of that stuff. And it was like my dream, you know, this is where I want to be, and I want to be in the Royal Ballet. It was always my dream. And I went to the Royal Ballet School and auditioned for the Royal Ballet School. And they said, we can offer you a place at the Royal Ballet School, which is amazing, right?
From that competition?
From the competition,
wow.
Yeah. But my teacher was with me at the time. My teacher came with me to London. And she said, I think you should go back to South Africa and you've got a place in a ballet company. I think you've had enough training. You should just start dancing. And I took her advice.
So you went back?
I went back to South Africa, yeah. But I wasn't totally happy. I wanted to be in London. I went back and I got quite a lot of experience. But 3 years, after being there for 3 years, it's a beautiful part of the world. You know, Cape Town is incredibly beautiful. But I felt, you know, if I really wanted to have a career, I needed to come back to London. Yeah, which is what I did.
And how did you do it then? Because did you...
Well, this is another remarkable thing. I decided that I was going to go in my summer holiday. I was going to travel around Europe and I was going to contact companies and just say, you know, can I audition? That's what I decided I was going to do. But really, the only company I had arranged that for was the Royal Ballet, because London was... No, I think we landed in Frankfurt and then we came to London. So London was my first stop. And I contacted them and said, you know, can I come? I didn't say, can I come and audition? I said, can I come and do class? I didn't think I would, I wasn't brazen enough to think I'm going to audition. And they said to me, you can do class with the company only if you audition for the company. And I was like, well, okay, fine. Not thinking at any point they were going to offer me a job.
That's
not
a golden rule, right? To not think too much about that.
To not think too much and just take the risk.
Yes.
And so that's what I did. I said, okay, in my stupid, in my the sort of like, the risk you have when you 20, 21. I just did that, I just do it. And the director came in, and then the associate director came in, and then they came to me and said, we'd like to see you again. And I was like, oh my God, does this mean they, what are the... And then they said, we'd like to offer you a job, which was like amazing, unbelievable. It changed my life. And
so then you moved permanently.
Yes, then I went back to South Africa and packed up and came like 4 or 5 months later, just decided, and relocated and started again with a suitcase,
And how was it, this change? Because
it was enormous.
It's huge.
Huge.
Such a different place.
Such a different. And I remember arriving in London on the 1st of January 1993.
Best month.
From sunny South Africa to this dark and cold. And it was like 5 years of being homesick.
Ooh.
And struggle, yeah.
And how did you feel with the company? Were you accepted, or was it a bit difficult?
No, I think it was thrilling, it was thrilling to be with these people, these dancers who you've only ever heard of, to see like Sylvie, Guillem or Eric McMadoff or Darcy Bustle.
You saw them?
Yes, they were all in the company, it was extraordinary.
Yes.
It was just like... it was amazing, and they were very welcoming. Actually, it was great. I hadn't been to the school. Most of those kids had gone through the school. They were just starting to take in dancers from the outside. So there was a little bit of animosity, or because it hadn't happened before.
Yes.
So there were situations, maybe odd situations, where it was, and of course I was surrounded by these incredible, dancers. So it was quite difficult sometimes. As far as my confidence and feeling like... So it took time to feel like
you belonged.
I deserved to be there, But it was amazing. It was,
How long did you stay with them?
I was there for 10 years.
Wow.
It's not that long, but...
But still, I feel like...
Yeah.
In ballet terms, it's quite long.
Yeah. Some people stay there, for 40, 50 years.
Yes.
So in retrospect, 10 years isn't that long. But yeah, it was... And it was quite a difficult time at that time for the company, because they were moving out. They had left the opera house and there were financial... So it was a difficult time to be there. But it was, it was a wonderful time,
Do you have maybe one very strong memory of being on stage or something where you were like, wow?
There were... I think towards the end of the last year of being in the company was the best year for me, because I think after 10 years of being there, I finally felt like that I had got to a place where I felt comfortable and confident, and I was working in a very different way, and I was getting good roles, and I was just fulfilling my potential and getting good parts and doing wonderful work, doing like symphonic variations or The Dream. I was lucky enough to do Oberon in The Dream with a very, very young Alina Cojocaru. And, coached by Anthony Dowell and Antoinette Sibley. And that was, it was hard, but But when you're in it there, you know, you just, you got to not have any doubt. So that's the thing. That's what, after 10 years of being there, I realized I've got to not have doubt about. I've just got to go for it.
Mm-hmm. And how did you arrive in the contemporary dance world? Because...
So, I mean, my training had I did quite a bit of contemporary in my training. I did quite a bit of like Graham in my training.
Ah, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So in South Africa?
In South Africa, yeah. So I did both, you know, I did ballet and contemporary. And I mean, the thing for me is like, I always really love being in, like working with choreographers, you know, being in new works and stuff like that. And then...
what did you like about it?
The collaboration, the just creating something new, creating something new and being part of the creative process.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's nice. And at the time at the Royal, we were doing a lot of, you know, Sleeping Beauties, Swan Lakes, not that much new work.
Mm-hmm. So it was refreshing to...
Yeah, but you know, we'd worked with quite a lot of like Matt Seck and Twyla Tharp and William Forsythe and Siobhan Davies came.
Oh, okay.
Gill Clark was there. So that was a kind of introduction to doing slightly different way of moving, like release work. Mm-hmm. It's my first... Especially when we went back to the Opera House, they started bringing in new people, and there was an attempt to engage the whole dance community. So we worked with these, you know, Gill Clark. I clearly remember Gill Clark and Siobhan Davies.
How was it?
It was great. It was great. It was really, you know, I mean, I think the beauty of being in a company like that, the diversity, you know, and you get to work with the best people.
Yeah, yeah.
And the range of choreographers. I mean, I remember Cathy Marston was starting to make work. Wayne McGregor was starting to make work. That was at the very, you know, beginning of his
flowering
career.
Moment of dance now.
Yeah, so it was great. But it's a big place, you know. It's a big company. If you're doing a good part, you get like 1 or 2 performances of something. It's difficult. It's competitive.
Yeah. And how did you start to teach?
Well, after I left the Royal Ballet, I went to Rambert Dance Company.
Okay.
So I was with ballet boys after the Royal Ballet. I was with ballet boys, and that's where I really got into more like contemporary stuff.
Okay, I didn't know that you did ballet boys.
Yeah, at when they were still at the very beginning of their company.
Wow.
So doing Forsythe and Akram Khan pieces and things like that. So, and then I really wanted to go down the contemporary route. And I went to Rambert, and I had to kind of really retrain, you know, I had to do the whole Cunningham thing. And no, but it was hard if you've never done it before.
Yeah, it's different. Huh?
It's very different.
All right.
And that's where I started choreographing at Rambert. We had choreographic workshops. I did something for Resolution. It was an environment. I'd always really wanted to choreograph, but I never kind of really knew or had the courage to do it.
Do you know why? Was it something that people were not doing so much, or?
I don't know. I was never given the opportunity. I'd always wanted to do it, but I was never given the opportunity. I was never encouraged to do it. I should have just done it. You know, I was always scared. I still am.
Yeah, it's very scary. Me too. It is something you would like to do more now, choreographing.
I don't know. I love creativity. I love the process. I love the researching an idea, and I love the imagination of it. I love the research.
Yeah.
And the process, but I don't know if I'm very good. And then, so I don't know if that's what, I've always thought, oh my God, my work's it's just not very good. So,
is there anything you've created that you're proud of?
No. I'm quite critical of it all. I did quite a lot, but I did feel the more I did it, the better, because I think it's a skill.
Yeah, you need to practice, right?
And I thought the more I did it, the better I got at it. Mm-hmm. But I find it quite torturous.
And do you prefer short or longer processes? Because, for example, like the choreography we did for Wateperry opera was quite on the short. It was, what, a couple of months or something? Eileen from the montage, I am here mentioning Wateperry Opera Festival, for which Hubert did a choreography last year on Trinity Laban dance students. That was on Vivaldi's Four Seasons, and I was a bit in and out of this project, but that's how I discovered Hubert's approach to the choreographic process. So that's why I mention it here. Or do you prefer to have like longer rehearsing duration?
No. Look, I think one's just going to kind of got to do it, right? I mean, I remember my first really big commission was with Ballet am Rhein in Düsseldorf, the ballet company, and I literally had no time. I mean, it was, and the director says, "I'd like you to use the whole company." It was just like an unbelievable, impossible experience, So I don't think necessarily having longer, but obviously, having 20 minutes here, you can't work like that either. There's no time to really... So ideally, the longer you have, but then I think you can have too long as well. Mm-hmm. But Lizzie Ross always says to me, it's not necessarily about the final destination, it's about the process. That's what's important.
Yeah.
Don't worry about what... But I think I worry too much about,
but
what people
difficult.
think.
Yeah. Because, of course, like there is something at the end, and it's like, if it's performed, I feel like it's difficult to get detached from the final results.
But I had no formal training in it. I didn't like you guys. I didn't do a master's or I didn't study it. I mean, my training was being in other people's work and dancing professionally and that was ballet.
Which is a form of training, I guess.
I guess, yeah. I mean, if you think of the masters of choreography, whatever, whether it's contemporary dance or ballet, if you think Cunningham or Graham or Balanchine, they didn't do any MAs.
Yes.
They did it. They just did what, they didn't study it.
Yes.
They did it.
Mm-mm. Do you have favorite choreographers?
Do I have a favorite choreographer?
Yes.
I have a lot, not a favorite. I admire a lot of choreographers. If you were talking about the masters, there would be like Balanchine or Hans van Manen. I greatly admire Pina Bausch. Of course, Cunningham. Yeah, the older I get, the more I've become more... I started off in a traditional sense, then I went all really contemporary, and now I've kind of veered back to the traditional in a way.
Do you know why there's this coming back to...
I don't know. I don't know why I've gone like full circle.
Kind of traditional and then contemporary and then back to traditional?
And then back to like more of a traditional. I don't know. I saw Giselle the other day by E&B and they did the really old traditional version and they did it so well. And I really, I thought, wow, there's something amazing about that. I'm a huge admirer of Matt's Eck work. I think he's a great choreographer. And Forsythe's a great choreographer. Mm-mm. Maybe I don't see enough new work by a younger generation.
But in London it's difficult. I find like there's a lot of stuff happening, especially contemporary dance, like in Belgium, like the Netherlands, Germany. That's a bit more cutting edge and yeah.
And there's just so much.
Yes, it's a bit overwhelming.
It is a bit overwhelming. Like, it's impossible to do everything. I also sometimes think I'd quite like to go to the theatre and see non-dance. You know, it's almost too much of everything. I can't. Sometimes we'll go to a recital, a music recital. I find to get away from it, you know, because I feel. Often I go and I don't enjoy it that much.
Yes.
And I want to see a different medium, you know. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about dance.
When you see a dance performance, do you feel like you are kind of analyzing it because it's your work?
Yes.
So do you feel like it's more difficult to relax and enjoy it?
Yes. I sometimes find I'm quite critical of it, and I'm
thinking about the lightning and everything.
Yeah, and the lack of something or
emptiness of meaning.
You know, I'm just become one of those people that's just so critical. And
you're becoming French.
And then also, you know, you think the older I get, I think, well, can I relate to this? I don't understand this. I don't understand what's going on. You know, I mean, I went to see, what was the Ballet de Marseille and they did a way out program. Half of it, I was like, oh my God, I don't understand what's happening on stage.
Why? What was...
It was just bizarre. There was just some very weird stuff happening on stage. And I just thought, this is not dance, but yet I've got to... And then there was some very interesting stuff happening. You know, there was like a real range. I think you've got to stay really open.
Yes.
I think you got to stay really, really open.
It's quite nice to be surprised also sometimes.
Yes, like. and kind of... I think I'm a bit of a snob sometimes when it comes to dance. I am.
But you can be, because you've got such a strong ballet training and kind of heritage. So
yeah,
I feel like you're allowed to be a snob. I'm not.
But then, yeah, I mean, and then sometimes I love the traditional stuff, and I don't know, and sometimes the way out, like Anna-Theresa de Keersmacher, I love. I love the pretentiousness of it. And the hardcore, you know, I mean, one of the best things I ever saw was Anna-Theresa de Keersmacher.
Which one?
It was the duet she did in the tanks. That was one of the best dance experiences I ever had, was seeing her do that, the duet. I don't know I can't remember what it's called.
Is it a phase, I think, no?
Phase, yes. Yes. So it's just, you know, the beauty of living in London is you just see there's so much.
Yes.
Choice, you know, there's just so much. But I try not to be a snob, I mean.
And otherwise, what type of artworks interest you? When it's like visual arts or music, what are you drawn to?
I think if anything's... It doesn't matter what genre it is. I think if it engages, if it's good. You know, I've just seen, like this week, I went to see a Sargent exhibition at Tate Britain, which was very beautiful, a portrait. And then I saw Yoko Ono, which I thought, oh, that's quite interesting. If something is interesting, if it's good, it's good. I you know, I don't kind of like to differentiate. I love some modern art. And some Kiefer. And then I love some of the traditional stuff. Like I love Turner. Or, you know, I'm not one of these people who just loves a particular type of, you know, I kind of have quite a broad range.
And you go out a lot to see work. I feel like you go a lot to exhibitions and...
Yeah, I do go a lot. I try to. I've just did a very good entangled pass at the Royal Academy of Art. So I try to see, I mean, especially when I was choreographing, I was getting a lot of inspiration from
that's...
Yeah. And, you know, quite a few years ago, I got into contemporary art. I was going to the Venice Biennale quite a bit and seeing, and that kind of opened a whole world to me of visual and contemporary art. Kind of a lot of my got all my books. If I'm making something, often if I'm making something, I start with visual art. Actually,
yes, I remember. Yeah, you had these books from, I can't remember, for the 4 seasons that we did.
Right. Yes.
This painter.
Oh.
Super colorful. I can't remember. But yes, I mean, it is really useful to have images also. I feel like, because dance is somehow also visual art, like something that you will see. So getting inspired from paintings and things like that is somehow very connected also to this movement.
Yes, because I think creativity is an act, right?
Yes.
Doesn't matter whether it's dance or music or singing or, it's an act of creation.
Do you do any of this? Like drawing, singing?
Terrible drawer. Terrible singer.
Did you try?
Yes.
Is it your own judgment or?
I could never really know. I can't draw. I can't. I just can't. I think I was more interested in the body, yeah, and I can't really sing. But maybe it's not too late to learn.
That would be so cool.
Yeah, it would
if
be.
If you started to do something like that.
Something different. But, one can't do everything. I feel that's just the thing as well, It's just so... Yeah, it's impossible to do everything you want to do. I don't know how some people do. Some people, I think one's going to be an obsessive in a way.
Yeah. And how do you relate to teaching now? Because you do that quite a lot in your...
Yeah, and I teach Pilates as well. And that's... Well, I think it's just an extension of it, I think it's a continuation. It's not a separate thing. It's all one thing leads to the other. So it's all this, because if I think of some of the great teachers that I had in my life, there was a wonderful teacher called David Howard, and he was British, but he worked in America most of his life. This is when I was at the Royal Ballet, and he'd come, and he was quite fragile. And at that point, getting to the end of his life, so he had difficulty walking, but he gave the most incredible... a good teacher can open up a whole world of possibility.
Yeah.
And can change everything for you.
I mean, you really changed everything for me, because I remember at Laban, I thought I would never go to a ballet class, ever. Eileen from the montage mentioning Laban again. This is the dance school where I trained and where I actually met Hubert, who was my teacher in 1st, 2nd and 3rd year. And I feel like I've improved actually much more after Laban in ballet. And because your teaching also was so about feeling your body and understanding your body, and also this, you could be curious and try to really play with it.
Well, I don't think I would have been a ballet teacher had I not discovered this philosophy of teaching or this technique of teaching, which I discovered through a woman called Antonia Franceschi and Renata Peroni. So I discovered this new way of accessing the ballet technique, and I became quite passionate about it because it changed everything for me.
Yes. It's funny because I feel though some people really struggle to
understand it. Yeah. Yes. It's a very particular thing.
And because I get so obsessed about it in a way.
Yes.
Because for me, it also changed everything. How, like, it really allowed my body to do ballet. And before I didn't think it was even possible because I was struggling with the turnout, with the flexibility and everything. So, but I feel like, some people, they really don't.
No, some people, you either get it or you don't.
Yes.
And I think kind of like, I'm not really interested in teaching.
People who don't get it.
People who don't get it and teaching ballet if it's not this. kind of ballet. You know, I'm not interested in doing that.
Yes.
Because I'm passionate about this particular method and training and teaching. But it can be difficult sometimes because people don't really know. It's not everybody can take it.
Yeah. You have to be a bit of a geek to do it, I think, maybe.
I think you've got to be a total geek. But I think, you know, and that's why it's difficult for some people.
Yeah.
I think, you know, ballet is a science.
Yes. Yes, that's really true. I think dance is science.
Moving the body.
Like,
moving the body is a science. So if you
Yeah.
have this perception of it, or if this intention, you know, if you need that kind of mind in a way
yes.
to understand, that's what.
And to keep it alive also, and to keep the passion.
Yeah, it's all about passion driven. And, you know, I always loved doing bar and doing, that was my favorite. Like I could never do a performance if I hadn't done a bar. I love the process of how my body is going to articulate and work. And
Yes.
that was super essential for me. So it's a bit nerdy, geeky, and it's nerdy ballet. But it's accessible, you know, anybody can do it.
Yes.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Anybody can.
That's rare.
Very
Also.
rare. Very rare to make it accessible to people. And then, you know, but I learned a lot from Antonio Francesco, and, you know, he changed everything. You know, that's the wonderful thing is I think when you discover these people that do have a huge impact on you and do change things for you, that's the beauty of, you know, continually learning and experiencing and shifting and changing. And
It's incredible how you can change people's lives as well.
I think so.
Because then if people are interested in your teaching and they're really getting a lot from it, their life is shifting.
I think it has an important,
Brings joy.
It's really valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever I'm thinking, oh God, not another class, I've got to like
January.
January, I've been teaching, but there's a huge amount of value in it.
True.
And I think it's understanding the value of things, you know, and it's great actually to see new people and younger generations because it's such a valuable thing.
Yeah. Yes. It's very precious.
It is.
Keep doing it, I think. And as a human being, what is your strength?
I think a certain amount of resilience.
I think so too.
And somehow finding a little bit of positivity in things or hope. You know, I mean, it's really interesting because I think, you know, I'm from the Southern Hemisphere. I was born and grew up in a very volatile and difficult place because of in South Africa. So that comes with a history of conflict and disharmony, but yet, you know, there's a great sort of spirit about Africa as well, and so a positivity about. So in my blood or my genes or somewhere, there's sort of something that feels hopeful. You know, there's a lightness, I think, that comes from growing up in the Southern Hemisphere and in the sun.
We need it here.
That's not, you know, that's kind of just a lightness or not that complicated.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Maybe that's why I like you.
Yeah, because I think, you know, we've got to be passionate and we've got to be kind of hopeful.
Yeah.
Which can sometimes be difficult.
Yeah. True. But you have also a great sense of humor.
Well, I don't think you can take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to laugh at things.
Which brings that lightness also.
Yeah, and laugh at yourself as well and the absurdity of, you know, what it is we're doing and not be too, you know, and it's hard, right? I mean, the best teachers I ever had made you laugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got to have a lightness to it all.
Yeah.
And to life and to, you know, it's so important, right? And that it's not too serious, I think. Mm-hmm. Even though you're doing it seriously. And I struggle, I think, often because I can get quite serious about it. You know, I can strive for perfection as a teacher and because I want it to be a certain way. But then I think, well, you got to not lose the element of play because it can get
too much. And
that's one thing I've got to remind myself, you know. But once you've got that strong foundation, you can do anything with it. Mm-hmm. Mm. But I do get a bit, I mean, the older I get, the more, you know. I've got to kind of remind myself to not get, you know, to keep it light.
And is there anything you would like to be better at?
Oh, loads of things. I'd like to be a better cook. I like cooking. I like gardening. My passion is my garden. Things I would like to be better. I'd like to learn a new language.
Which one?
I don't know.
If you had to choose one.
Possibly French or Italian, but I know it will never happen in this lifetime.
That's for the food, huh?
I'd like to sometimes be a better communicator. You know, I'm not always good at, and I think everybody at resolving conflicts. It's hard. It's an ongoing process.
That's why we dance, right? Because we can't talk that well.
Yeah, sometimes. Yes, I think so. I think we can express things or feel things in other ways we can't express, maybe. Mm-hmm.
And is there anything that scares you?
Old age. Dementia, Alzheimer's. Getting old. I mean, you know, losing my mind, losing my facilities. You know, losing my physicality or don't care about my looks. Things that scare me. I mean, not so much death, but really kind of, you know, not being able to be physical.
Mm-hmm. And what's your strongest desire in life?
I guess to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And to make other people happy. And to be light, you know.
And what makes you happy? A happy day?
I practice Buddhism.
Mm-hmm.
And studying Buddhism makes me happy.
Anything else?
Eating. Drinking. Gardening. The sun.
And who inspires you?
Who inspires me is my Buddhist mentor, Daisaku Ikeda, Nichiren Daishonin, my Buddhist mentors.
Because you've been practicing for how long time, no?
Yes.
20.
Maybe 16, 17 years. And and that's also a big part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
That's what underpins everything. Because that's ongoing.
Yeah, it brings stability in the...
Yeah, having to change things about yourself or understand things. Or, you know, sometimes you don't see certain traits you have.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of, and transformation. Buddhism is transformation. So we've got to constantly, somewhere along the line, do some transformation on ourselves. Sometimes have to do it on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You know, and that you're not staying still, but it also makes me a little less fearful. So it makes me more fearless.
Mm-hmm.
I think to be any performer or artist, you've got to be fearless on some level.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be risk.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've all experienced that. We've all kind of, on one level or another, you've taken the step to go out of your comfort zone or to progress or to learn or to develop.
Mm-mm.
And take the risk to leave what you know and to go forward, to move forward. You can never go back. You've got to go forward.
Mm.
And there's risk. Risk is involved in it, in everything, I think.
Mm.
And that's why I say even to dance, you've got to have risk. You've got to be able to, something's got to be on the line.
Mm.
You can't do it comfortably, I think. You can't do anything comfortably. If you're going to be good at anything, it's got to have risk. Sort of. Yeah. Can't be complacent.
Mm.
And so it's like now, right? It's in the moment. You've got to give everything.
Mm. And if you were an animal, which one would you be?
My cat.
You'd be your cat.
Because he has the easiest life in the world.
Where is he? Sleeping?
I think he's probably, he is sleeping.
Oh.
Yeah. He's sleeping. I don't think he's very interesting, but he's beautiful. I think it would probably be my cat because I love him so much. I'd want to be him. Or any cat for that matter, because I think cats are, I think cats are incredible animals. Agile and, dangerous. And like he can be really cute one minute and then the next minute he can turn into a bit of a tiger. Unpredictable.
Surprise, surprise. And do you have a favorite color?
Favorite color? I love green.
Oh, yeah, that's true. You're often wearing green.
Yeah, I love any form of green.
Uh-huh. Do you feel like you know yourself very well?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I think Buddhism's taught me to kind of understand myself a little bit more and be less confused.
And if you could meet yourself when you were 15 years old and say something, what would you say?
I would probably say have a little bit more confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say have a little bit more confidence. I think with age, I think when I was a teenager and I was quite, I took risks, but there was a lack of confidence. I still think I'm not necessarily that confident, but I would say be more confident.
Mm. And do you have any desire for the future? Any project you'd like to do? Or
I'm really interested. I don't know. I like I'm really interested in working with injured dancers, helping rehabilitating injured dancers. I teach Pilates, but I think the technique I teach helps with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for now it might change because my interests are every couple of years something changes. Mm-hmm. But that's where my attention and my desire is at the moment is looking at the rehabilitation of injuries.
Mm. And do you have any last recommendation of a book or a movie or something that you've seen recently that inspired you?
Oh God, I read and I've got like 3 or 4 different books on the go.
You read a lot.
You can see that my place is covered in books, but I'm trying to get through mythos, which is, I've always been interested in the Greek myths. So I'm Stephen Fry has written his version of the Greek myths and Greek mythology. So I'm trying to get through that. Because in our last project that we did, there was quite a little bit of mythology involved in that. And piecing. But that's ongoing, right? If you want to learn the ancient, you know, you can spend a lifetime. So that's, you know, I've got everything still, all my books. I always start a book, I never really finish it. I get halfway through, so I've got them all lined up. Movies. Looking forward to what's current. You know, Ripley is starting tonight on Netflix, so I'm looking forward to that. It's all about the next thing, not about the thing that we've seen. It's about the new, the latest, right, in a way. I love Patricia Highsmith. I was in Capri in the summer, and I was reading I'm kind of fascinated by this book, The Talented Mr. Ripley, because I was there in the summer and I started reading the book and I was like, oh my God, this is I'm in Capri, I'm reading the book, I'm loving it, and then I lost the book on a train, then I left it on a bus or something. And so I quite like this Patricia Highsmith, the author of The Talented Mr. Ripley, and now there's a new version coming out on Netflix, and so everybody's talking about that. So. Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Hubert. That was really sweet. If you enjoy this podcast, please give it a 5 stars on your favorite platform. It really supports me, and then I can interview all the artists of the world until I die. Merci!